Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula, and today our co-host, our special friend from the MCSE network, Nico House, is here with us today. How you doing, Nico?
What up, man? Damn, bro. Y'all don't even know. He been trying to work me like a slave behind the scenes to run the show. He wouldn't even let me in front of the camera.
Yeah, well, I said you work hard, you get one show in front of the camera. While the kids are doing their staycation, Nico and Sue have been holding it down from across the whole United States. So I want to thank them, and we have a great show today. We have an amazing guest. He's a friend of the show. If you don't know him, you need to know him. His name is Kevin Zeese. He's one of the embassy protectors, one of the last four in that building. He is one of the creators of popularresistance.org. It was really influential in my life when the Venezuelan situation, the Ukrainian situation in 2014 when it was at its height. I think popularresistance.org did some of the best coverage. They gave you really great insights, and you can go back and look day by day on his website. Kevin Zeese also works for Howie Hawkins, and he's here with us today. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great. Great for having me on. Thanks a lot. Good to meet you, Nico.
I know. About time, man. I'm a big. You have no idea, Kevin. Every single day, I'm like, y'all don't talk about foreign policy enough. Y'all don't talk about foreign policy enough. And I use a lot of the work that you do and a lot of the people that you work with to talk about the issues like what we're going to talk about today with Venezuela. So it's an absolute pleasure to finally talk to you.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Stuff's going down in Venezuela. Like I said, a lot of people didn't hear last week because it was the National Football Draft. I think the deep state or the secret empire that you talk about, that's something that we use on this show that we said Kevin Zeese has coined. The secret empire. It looks like they were going under the cover of the distraction of the NFL draft when they attempted this coup. But before we get there, we got to talk about certain things. A friend of mine called me today, and she said, Pasta, I don't know what to do. Who do I vote for? I'm confused. I don't see myself voting for Joe Biden. And I said, well, the only option is third party. And the only two other parties that really have a good amount of ballot access, I mean, they're in certain states, is either the Libertarian or the Green Party. And she asked me, which one are you? I said, well, that's hard to explain because I think at the core, the Libertarians represent my most important issues to me, which is election integrity, civil liberties, whatnot. They're non-interventionist. But overall, I would really consider myself a Green because I'm strong on labor. And I believe that Howie Hawkins, who's right now the leading candidate in the Green Party, is so strong when it comes to labor. And I even believe if there's a leader of this movement to come out of this situation right now, it has to come from labor. So I'm kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out the door when it comes to Howie Hawkins, and we can go to this. But I want you to give me your best pitch on why I should vote for Howie Hawkins. And please, Kevin, take your time, take 5 minutes, give us the pitch. Why Howie Hawkins? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, everything you want in the Libertarian Party, the Greens also stand for. So just so you know that those are also Green issues. Howie is an amazing candidate. He has been an activist since the 60s on racial injustice. He's been an activist on worker rights and environmental justice, basically economic, racial, environmental justice, as well as peace. He's an anti-imperialist, and what's great about working with Howie, and I was Ralph Nader's spokesperson as well back in 2004. So with Ralph, I would write a position statement on something, an issue he wanted to talk about. I'd give it to Ralph to review, and he'd make improvements, of course, because he's Ralph Nader. And then no matter how good I wrote it, he'd make it better. I have found the same exact thing with Howie. Howie is so deep on these issues that I write an excellent piece on healthcare or on workers' rights, and Howie just improves it so much. And it's what I love about how he's picked a fantastic vice presidential candidate, Andrea Walker, who is also a working class person, a truck driver who has been an activist since she was in high school. She got African American Studies programs on her school curriculum in Milwaukee. Then she was involved in a union when she became a worker, and she led her union to the Wisconsin uprising against that crazy right-wing governor. And then when Occupy began, she led her union into Occupy. She then ran for office as a socialist in Milwaukee for sheriff against this, you might know this guy, this right-wing black guy who wears a cowboy hat. He's a Trump.
Oh man, what's that guy's name? Oh, Jesse Peterson. Jesse Lee Peterson, right?
That's not. Is it David Walker? I think.
Oh, David Walker. I call him Jesse Lee Peterson's twin. My bad. That's why I use it. They look almost exactly alike.
But she got 20% running as a socialist.
Wow.
And then she ran in 2016 as the vice president of the Socialist Party USA. So she's got great experience and she's a great personality. You guys should have her on sometime. She's a really great personality in her own right, just like Ajamu Baraka was for Jill Stein. Great personality who now leads the Black Alliance for Peace. So Howie is right on all the issues. The first person ever in the United States to run on the Green New Deal. He did so in 2010 when he ran for governor. And after that, about 50 other Greens followed suit and joined in on the Green New Deal. Jill Stein ran on it twice in both her elections. Now that's become an issue that's even coming up in the Democratic Party. And it's an issue that has high majority support. He's now put forward on HowieHawkins.us a detailed Green New Deal plan, including a budget for it. And it's a critical issue right now, not just because of climate, but because of the economic collapse we're in. The biggest challenge of the Green New Deal is getting enough people to do the work. It's going to create tens of millions of jobs. Mm-hmm. You're going to need that coming out of this depression that we're going into.
Kevin, I think we should caveat and let people know we're talking about the actual real Green New Deal. Not that 12.
That's exactly right.
Not that 12.
Not the AOC
bullet point, one page, not addressing nuclear energy, not addressing fracking. The real Green New Deal.
Not the Democratic Party version.
Where it's exactly okay to frack.
And even the Democratic Party version is too much for Joe Biden. So Howie's fantastic on the Green New Deal. Because he's a Teamster, just retired, he also knows worker rights from personal experience. He has pension cut dramatically by the Congress because they screwed up the pension laws, so he knows what that's like. So he put forward a fantastic message on Labor Day for worker rights, very strong. And the Green New Deal includes a Bill of Rights for workers. That's part of the Green New Deal. Green New Deal also includes a 75% cut in the military budget because you got to confront the military if you're going to confront climate change. And so he's calling for a transition to a peace economy, which is so needed. We are spending so much money on weapons and war, more than half of our discretionary spending, that it means we can't fund what we actually need for the people and for the planet. So Howie is transitioning all that. But on every issue you can think of, internet freedom, he's got the strongest statement of that. Community control of police. Oh my God, his position on community control of police is so powerful. On Russiagate, he criticizes Russiagate from both a Democrat perspective and a Republican perspective. He sees both parties as using Russiagate for their own ends. And he says, sure, there were some Russians putting out tweets and stuff during the last election, but they had no impact on the election. But both the Democrats are using it to cover up for Hillary Clinton's failure. Republicans are using it to keep their neocon right-wing, escalation with Russia going. So both parties are abusing Russiagate, and so he's not buying either one of those stories. He's fantastic on Julian Assange, calling for Assange to be released, no extradition, no prosecution. He's strong. He has always been supportive of Chelsea Manning, calling for her release before she was released. So on issue after issue, Howie's right. So why vote Hawkins? Because in 2020, this is a very important election. You can't waste your vote on either the Wall Street Republicans or the Wall Street Democrats, because that's the choice that the Wall Street parties are giving us. Biden and Trump are both Wall Street and war candidates, and we can't waste our vote on that. The history of the United States is that transformational change comes from two things working together: social movements and third parties. Social movements pushing an agenda, third parties taking that agenda, putting it into the electoral arena and showing it has political support. That forces one of the two parties to accept it, accept the agenda, and move forward. The whole New Deal came from the Progressive Party and the Socialist Party. The union rights, worker rights, 8-hour workday, ending child labor came from the Populist Party in the 1890s. The end of slavery came from third parties for more than 20 years. Multiple third parties calling for abolition of slavery. And finally, both parties got weakened and Abraham Lincoln was elected. The most successful third party president in history was elected, and we finally got rid of slavery. But on issue after issue, The two parties don't deal with the issues confronting the people. And that's true today. The wealth divide, the inequality, the climate crisis, healthcare crisis, housing crisis. They're both doing a very poor job with COVID, and they're both doing a terrible job with the economic collapse. They're funneling money to the top and not giving to the bottom. So neither party is dealing with what the people or planet need. The movement is the popular, like our effort of popular resistance is part of a movement that's working to change these issues and build power for these issues. And the third party campaign of Howie Hawkins has all these issues in his campaign. So if you want to combine social movements with a political entity, the only choice you have is Howie Hawkins. The Libertarian Party doesn't stand for most of that stuff.
Okay, so it was the Green Party and Jill Stein who really did a lot for election integrity last time out. I mean, a lot of people were very disgusted with Bernie Sanders that he wouldn't call out the election rigging, challenge the results, get a serious audit so we can see what was what. A lot of us feel he didn't fight to make sure that every one of our votes were counted. That's why a lot of us went over to Tulsi Gabbard, because she had the Securing American Elections Act, which talked about open source, closed source. It talked about the auditing process. It talked about a paper trail. I haven't heard much from Howie when it comes to election integrity. Where does he stand on this particular issue? Because this issue, for a lot of us, this is our bread and butter. We believe if we don't get the people's choice, we won't get the people's voice. Where's Howie?
Oh, there's no question about it. In fact, election issues, democracy issues are always central to the Green Party. Go back to Nader in 2000, 2004, both Nader and Cobb challenged the Ohio account, and Nader challenged the New Hampshire account as well. So this has always been an issue, and Howie is so strong on democracy issues. He believes in paper ballots verified by the voters as critical to elections. Even if you use an electronic machine, you have to have a voter verified paper ballot so you can do an audit. Without that, you can't do an audit. There's no way to audit a machine. If you just have a machine, the machine makes a mistake, that software repeats itself, and you get the same mistaken result. So you have to have a paper ballot. That's essential. Howie is very, very much into multi-party democracy, so that legislatures have proportional representation. So if a party gets 5% of the vote, they get 5% of legislators. 10%, 50, whatever they get in the vote count, they get that percentage of legislators. That creates real democracy. Right now, this winner takes all system means that if you get 49% of the vote, you get no representation. You're out. And so you got a proportional representation key is the most important. Howie's also very supportive of ranked choice voting. So you rank your choices of candidates, your top choice, your second choice if you want, your third choice if you want. If no one gets 50%, then the bottom vote getter, their second choice gets counted. The advantage of ranked choice voting is you always get a majority president or candidate. If it's a Senate race, whatever race it is, you always get a majority candidate because someone has to get over 50%. And so ranked choice voting. So on issue after issue, Howie is strong on democracy, open debates, public funding of public elections, it's all on Howie Hawkins' site.
Does Howie Hawkins have a position on open source and closed source? Because that's something that's really glossed over. As an election integrity activist, I'm fighting for transparency, and a publicly funded elections should not have proprietary software in the tabulation machines. Well, all of our tabulation machines across the country have closed source proprietary software. In other words, Kevin, you can't prove to me that it's rigged, but I can't prove to you that it's not rigged because we're not allowed to look inside. It's something called black box voting. Where does the Hawkins campaign stand on getting us some transparency when it comes to the machines we use?
Well, I think he goes further than that. Howie Hawkins is a socialist. There are many functions in government that should be run by the government, not by corporations. Elections should not be run by private corporations. They should be run as a public purpose, run by the local government, if it's a local race, the state government, or the national. But it needs to be run by the government. So not only open source, but government would have access to control the machines. It's their machines. Go ahead. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they never allow that. If if I've never seen a private corporation allow access to the proprietary software. They always.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Florida has a great history of really bad elections.
Yes, they do. And this topic, though, this is an issue, though. See, let me tell you something, Kevin. If Howie does even half of what Jill Stein did as far as challenging the results, which she did in Michigan, I believe it was, or was it Wisconsin? I get
Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania.
Exactly. But if Howie can take this one issue, if you guys can take this one issue and really build upon it, in other words, when you get into the general election, challenge results, fight for more transparency, it doesn't make a difference what other obstacles are in the way. Personally, for me and other people like me who hold this issue so high in regards, we're behind Howie. And I just was looking for some sort of promise from the Howie Hawkins campaign to say they will fight fully for election integrity. And then you probably got me. Are you willing to full
That's
blown?
a great idea. When in the early 2000s, after the 2000 election, a lot of states moved toward these debold voting machines, these electronic black box voting machines. And I organized a group called True Vote. And True Vote was focused on getting rid of these machines, or at least putting in place a voter verified paper record to compare results if there were questions. And I was initially focused on Maryland, and we were very successful. We finally took multiple years. It's amazing how much the government resisted, but we finally got rid of them. And I think many states have done so. Some states are still buying them. It's crazy. When I was in Venezuela for the Maduro re-election, I got to see their voting in operation, and it's so superior to U.S. voting. And they have a voter verified paper record, and they do an automatic audit.
Yeah.
End of election day, more than 54% of the machines are randomly selected at every precinct, and they take the paper ballots, will take it out, show it to everybody, and count it. And they compare that to the electronic vote. If there's an accurate, to do a paper count of everything. So that's a model, and that's
yeah. Let me tell you something. If it's also, I come from the restaurant industry. I was a corporate trainer, so I run front of the house systems. And a lot of our election process can use a type of person like myself to make sure that these systems, because it's a form of suppression. If you're going to tell a young person, a young progressive person who might vote for a Howie Hawkins or somebody progressive, that he's got to wait 6 hours, 7 hours in a line, and that's
crazy.
And you're going to tell me that our government can't run fucking fair elections, Kevin? That's enough. I want our elections to go under a magnifying glass. And if Howie can continue with the work which Jill Stein did, then I'm all for it, baby. And that's why I wanted to ask you today.
You have to
if you
understand,
make a promise, I'm there.
Now,
you have to understand, Jill Stein followed in the footsteps of previous Green candidates. Every Green candidate has challenged election results because it's this kind of.
I didn't know that.
And so this is a key issue for Greens, and Howie's was one of the founders of the Green Party. So of course, this is one of the democracy is central to the Green Party.
So, Kevin, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I've interviewed several Green Party presidential candidates. I was actually a surrogate for Jill Stein in 2016. Excuse me, I need to stop saying that. Dr. Stein. I was a surrogate for Dr. Stein. I feel like people always try to minimize her status. This is an MD from Harvard. Let's pay her the respect she's due. So I was a surrogate for Dr. Stein in 2016. But a few things for me are extremely important when we're talking about who we're going to nominate and, of course, ultimately support as a populist leftist person. So when we're looking at some of the issues that have been brought up by other presidential candidates within the Green Party, like, for example, they said there's been some unfair treatment and favoritism towards Howie Hawkins, and other people have been left out of speaking at events, and they're not getting the funding, they're not being officially recognized, et cetera, et cetera. Why is that narrative becoming more and more popular? Obviously, I don't have Howie here, so can you explain to me why that is?
I'm happy to answer. Well, you're probably talking about candidates who are not recognized by the Green Party. There are people running for the nomination who have not.
What is recognize? I guess what is recognized?
I'm going to explain that.
Yeah.
Because when you have a third party, it's just easy to have it infiltrated or people who are not really serious candidates come in. Mm-hmm. So you have to set some standards, and the minimal. So it's Green Party Presidential Campaign Support Committee, which has no Howie Hawkins people on it. In fact, it's chaired by a guy who was a former Jill Stein campaign manager.
But to be fair, there are Howie Hawkins alumni from that committee on the campaign now, right?
I was on that committee.
Okay.
I got off that committee before Howie announced. I was the last person who's associated with Howie Hawkins who was on that committee. I got off it before the exploratory committee was announced.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure for transparency.
But let me tell you about the standards.
Mm-hmm.
The standards are so low that if you were running for city council and didn't meet these standards, you wouldn't be serious. Have a website, file with the FEC, raise $5,000 in $250 installments, and get 100 greens to say you should run. Now, that's not 100 greens to endorse you. That's 100 greens who say you should run. There are 250,000 greens registered to vote in this country. And there are tens of thousands of more in states that are members of Green parties that don't allow registration as a Green party. So you have more than 300,000 greens in this country. If you can't get 100 greens to say you should run, why would anyone take you seriously? So those are the standards. Now, three candidates have met those standards, and that's great. So we have really a three-candidate race. There are 4 or 5 others who have not met those standards. One of them, Ian Schlackman from Baltimore, my city.
Well, he dropped out. He dropped out
because he only got 70 people to sign. And Schlackman's one of the biggest people putting out these lies about special treatment. He's one of the major people doing that.
So the person who actually came onto my show and talked about it was actually a Green Party official from that committee. And he was even explaining that there were some issue. Justin
Beth?
I think so. It's Justin B. So I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So he was explaining that there are some, I guess, flaws in the way that candidates are recognized or unofficially recognized, and there have been some shortcomings. He admitted this, and even though I think he's actually a Howie Hawkins supporter,
no, he's not. He's actually was a supporter of Dario. Then he was pushing Jesse Ventura.
I do know he was pushing Jesse Ventura. I don't know about the Dario thing. So, but at the time when I interviewed him, Jesse wasn't.
He's actually supposed to be independent, and he still has pushed these other candidates. He should have gotten off the PCSC like I did, but he instead stayed on and influenced the direction.
Which I agree. He should not be.
I'd criticize Justin Beth more than I'd criticize the process.
So, but here's the thing, though. I had multiple candidates on and multiple representatives from the Green Party, even Dario on. And as far as the rules, like the actual rules and the way things have happened, like, for example, Dario is a recognized candidate, but he was actually kept out of speaking at an event after he was told that he was going to be allowed to speak, and he had to go off to the side of the room and speak. But Howie was allowed to speak. So
it depends on the event. What happened in some events, this was way early in the campaign.
Yeah.
2 things happened. One was some states invited Howie to speak as a Green New Deal advocate. He's like the top expert in the country.
Yes.
He was invited to speak on that, so he came and spoke on it. Other events, Howie's done fundraisers for Green parties for years. He gets invited to do a fundraiser. It's not part of their annual meeting. It's a separate event, and that's the one that Dario came to. So he's doing a fundraiser.
But this event he was invited to speak at, and then when he got there, he was told he was disallowed to speak.
I doubt that's what happened. I'd like to know that story because I
wouldn't have said it because I had asked him about it, and then
I follow these things really closely. I don't think that ever happened. So
and look, man, I can't. I'm not gonna get into the he say she say nonsense because I understand how that goes within party politics. But I would say enough people collaborated for me to bring it up. But the ultimate point is, they
didn't corrupt. There are a handful of people who support Dario and who are candidates who can't even make that minimal standard Those are the ones corroborate. You shouldn't even listen to those people.
But see, here's my problem with that statement. That's anti-democratic.
Someone
Even in the Democratic Party.
Someone can't. Sorry. No, you're wrong. Someone can't get 100 Greens to say you should run. We should listen to them. Someone can't get 100 Greens and comes in and does divisive and dishonest stuff. We should give him a podium? No.
Well, Dario, but the thing is, Dario ended up being, but Dario's like almost neck and neck. So it's not like I'm not. So I know there's.
He's
I
not
know
neck
that.
and neck.
Hold on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second.
Hold on, gentlemen, one at a time.
I'm trying to give me a second, please.
I just hate these lies wasting our time.
I'm not. This isn't a lie. Hunter is one of the only 3 candidates being recognized. So that's why I'm not talking about the stuff that other people have said, because I get it. There should be, there can be infiltrators. There could be lazy people who literally just come in to be divisive. I do understand. Yeah. But this isn't one of those people. This is a person with a very, very positive message and was honestly even hesitant to have any conversation regarding Howie because he just wanted to focus on his campaign. But this was a super chat question that came up, and that's how the conversation got started. But when we're talking about officially recognizing, not officially recognizing, when we're kind of getting into some tumultuous territory and a slippery slope, when we're trying to say, well, if you can't get people to like you, even though you might be relatively unknown, but you have great ideas, and it may be a little bit more difficult for you to find the time in a very specific time period to do that. But if I was even running, God forbid, which I would never do, in the Democratic Party, I could still be recognized by the party. I could be treated like shit by the party. But as far as quote unquote official recognition is concerned, I don't have to meet a minimum threshold or a petition. Different states to get on the ballot, that's a different discussion.
Am I being interviewed or are you making a speech?
Well, no, I'm trying to explain to you because you cut me off. So I'm trying to explain to you. I'm trying to explain to you why. Because listen, I am a person who is, my loyalty right now is to vote for the Green Party candidate so you all can get 5% because I understand how impactful that could be. Understanding this goal, but also being an objective voter who is interacting with people every day who are seeing all this, I'm trying to help you understand their perspective. Because if they feel like the Green Party is in any way behaving like the Democratic Party, it could stop you all from achieving that goal. So the reason I was trying to give you, context.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Yes, you may.
Okay. Well, the Democratic Party, and you guys are Tulsi supporters. You know, I mean, so you know she was excluded from debates. So there are about 30 people running for the Democratic nomination.
But all of them are recognized, though.
No, they can't participate in debates. They can't do anything at the party. The party does nothing with them. So they can run, but they're ignored. And so that's pretty much what we're doing here. Now, when we early in the campaign process. We had an annual meeting in Salem. All the candidates were allowed to participate, even though at that point it was so early that wasn't the recognized issue wasn't even coming up. Mm-hmm. So everyone was participating. But as the campaign developed, and maybe Dario got excluded early on before he was recognized. I don't know the situation you're talking about.
No, the debates, he was a part of all of them. He was a part of all the debates.
So he's part. Yeah, so he's part. And so he's not been excluded that way. But when we're nothing like the Democratic Party. We have no super delegates. I've heard people who are unrecognized candidates saying we're acting like we have super delegates. There's no super delegates. That people are excluded from debate. No one's excluded from the debate if they meet the minimal. So 100 is too many. How about filing it with the Federal Elections Commission? How about having a website? I mean, these are such basic things.
No, I don't know. So I agree with you that you need to at least have an apparatus to be considered a serious candidate.
Yes, of course. Exactly.
But I also feel like just when we engage, I'm speaking from the perspective of an objective voter, because these people have been scorned. People are about to come into the Green Party because they've been scorned to hell by the Democratic Party. And they're alarmed when they hear some of these stories, they hear some of these rules. And like, for example, Andrea told me herself, she wrote a letter to basically make candidates qualify for specific resources. None of the other candidates agreed, but yet her connections allowed her to get the amendment passed anyway. So now Howie had an unfair advantage. So
who's Andrea, guys? Guys, wait.
Who's Andrea? Andrea is the campaign manager, Howie, and no resources were ever provided. So, and Justin Beth was actually in charge of providing those resources. He dragged his feet, and no one's ever been providing any resources.
Well, yeah, that's something else entirely. But
that's a real serious. That's one of the reasons I think Justin Beth should really drop off he's on the steering committee, which is the top committee in the party. He should actually drop off of that too, because he's been showing.
Yeah, if he's behaving biasly, he should drop out. I 100% agree.
And so, the point is, Yes, we have we have to have some standards, but the PCSC, which is independent of any campaign, certainly independent of the Howie campaign, set very low standards, low even for a city council race. And if a candidate can't meet those standards, they should be excluded. And if people that's scoring them, no, it's making them lifting them up to do at least the basics of running a serious campaign. Hawkins has run a serious campaign. Hawkins has now, he's the only candidate working for federal matching funds. Under federal law, third-party candidates can get federal matching funds during the primary only. You have to get 20 states, $5,000 in donations, and $250 installments. And in those 20 states, then you can get matching funds up to the primary. Howie's raised $160,000. No other candidates come close to that. And he's got now 12 states out of the 20 necessary. 8 other states are above 30%. 6 of those are above 60%. He's getting very close to matching funds. That's a serious campaign. Howie Hawkins is spending resources trying to get Greens on the ballot across the country. No other candidate is doing anything to get Greens on the ballot across the country. Hawkins is the only one trying to build the Green Party. So Hawkins is really the only serious campaign. We'll give respect to Dario.
I don't think that's a fair. I don't think that's a fair statement. You could say he's the most prolific campaign because I would agree with that. But I don't think it's a fair statement to discount the hard work and effort that like candidates like that have worked very hard to be recognized, like Dario, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But I don't think we shouldn't say they're not serious candidates. But you can make the argument that
I can see I don't see a serious campaign. Because they're not out I don't see much campaign.
I've seen him out I've seen him host town halls. He invites me to them to report on them.
They come to debates once in a while. They do occasional events. But if you look at their website, they're relatively inactive. Their fundraising is almost non-existent. They're not doing anything with ballot access. They're not doing anything with matching funds. To me, those are the measures for a serious candidate for president, which is a very big job. Yeah. Matching funds, ballot access, campaign staff, active on social media with lots of people following you, engaging with people. Those are serious campaigns. And I don't see anyone else doing it. I'm sorry. Dario, I like Dario on a lot of things. I have a lot of criticism too, but I like Dario on a lot. And I think he has great potential. He's a great spokesperson, lawyer, rabbi, so he's very good on his feet. And so I think he has really great potential as a candidate. But he's got about 10 years.
So before we move on to Venezuela, so we could talk about that. What are your policy criticism of Dario as compared to Howie?
I don't want to get into criticizing Dario.
No, not Dario. Just the policy differences, because people are strongly considering voting for Dario.
I'll say the major problem I have with Dario is that he's a new Green. He ran for office as a Democrat a year ago, and this is going to be very
for school board.
Yes, this is going to be that's right, school board. Mm-hmm. Very difficult 2020 election. There's been a lot of attack on whoever our nominee is. I went through this with 2004 when we were challenging George Bush. Everyone was afraid of George Bush. It was anybody but Bush year. Mm-hmm. This is anybody but Trump year. And the pressure is going to be intense. And so I want someone who's the candidate who is deep on Green Party values, who has been solid on issues for a long time, who's not wavered. Dario, for example, when he was in Canada, he tried to stop a Palestinian rights film being shown. Now he says he's pro-Palestine.
But in that same light, I mean,
he's inconsistent.
I mean, we all are aware of Howie Hawkins' comments regarding Russiagate, regarding Julian Assange in the past, regarding Chelsea Manning in the past. Couldn't someone make that same argument? And I would say that you are allowed to evolve as long as that evolution is genuine. And Dario explained to me that evolution from his perspective, and you would probably make the argument that Howie has evolved there. So is that really a fair argument?
I think it's a totally fair argument. Howie is so deep and consistent on issues.
I mean, he literally called Chelsea Manning Chad like multiple times. Kevin,
he didn't call her once. He made that mistake, not multiple times, but he's been very solid in support of Chelsea Manning.
Okay, all right. You want to start on the Venezuela? Pasta?
No. Wait, hold the horses, Nico. I got stuff going on. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
1 second. So I'm going to hit you with a different perspective, and I want you to talk to me about this one, Kevin, because my thought process is a little different. I have heard the bickering going around about the nomination process with the Green Party. Quite frankly, I ignored a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't want to hear about it. 6 months ago, when I watched these debates, the thought process of maybe hosting some of these debates on the CONVO couch, I went and took a look. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. I looked a lot of those candidates, and I didn't see any serious candidates. All I saw, the only person I really took serious was Howie, and eventually I saw Dario, and I took him serious. And don't get me wrong, set him on. David, I love Dennis Lambert. He was great, whatnot. But it wasn't the nomination process that's bothered me. When I look at Howie Hawkins, and maybe you can unpack this and give me your opinions and just let me get this out, I don't see a strong leader. I didn't want to hear the pickering. I wanted to see Howie pick up the phone, call Dennis, call Dave, call Chad, call these people, and whip them votes and get them on his side and say, hey, listen, I know you have your own particular issues you want to bring to the table. What could I do as a leader for us to really join forces? Instead, I've heard the rhetoric of that person's a disruptor, that person's a liar. I don't see the guy who's bringing stuff together. Maybe you could unpack that for me right now, because that's where I'm lacking. I want to see a strong leader, and I don't see that in Howie Hawkins. Go ahead.
Well, Howie, first off, when he run for governor, for example, he's got the highest vote total of any left candidate for a third party since the 1920s. So that's something that you should keep in mind. He's been very serious about his runs for governor. Second, Howie has chosen to run a positive campaign. He's not chosen to get into these bickerings. Like you, he ignored them, and he's focused on putting forward his positive agenda. And I think that's the right strategy. In Salem, when they had that forum, and some of the candidates were going with these negative approaches, Howie ignored it, stayed on message, stayed positive. Leadership is by example. I don't think that he could call up some of these other people and say, "In what can I do to get in line?" You're not going to get them in line. They have their own agenda. They have their own reason for doing what they're doing. It's not the issue. Howie's job is to build his campaign and put out a positive message and show through that how you lead the party.
But you did say yourself that Howie's job is really to kind of grow.
Guys, one at a time. 1 second. Kevin, finish up, and then Nico, you follow.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, go ahead. I was saying you lead by example, and Howie's done it by example.
Nico.
So now, by the way, his runs for governor for the Green Party have been pretty historic. I will admit that. And honestly, I feel like a lot of Greens should probably take from his example while they're running for governors in other states, because New York is a very diverse state and Howie did a very good job there. Now, I don't believe that we can conflate that with being necessarily a good leader in a good coalescer of personalities. And I know we say, well, no, we should just lead by example, but I'm going to go to bat for Pasta here. Pasta is very consistent in this because he's called for Bernie to do the same thing. He maintains, and so do I, and so does Fiorella as well, that Bernie really lost the race the moment that the other establishment candidates in the Democratic Party decided to coalesce around each other, or around Joe Biden specifically. But that's because Joe Biden reached out to them, or Obama did, but effectively Joe Biden did.
Biden.
Yeah. Biden did. There you go. Biden. Yeah. But when it was time for Bernie to swallow his ego, ignore all the noise, and do what was best, not only for his campaign, but for the movement going forward, because we kind of had to we need to build up a strong populist movement and maintain it going forward too for generations to come. He didn't do it. He was like, I'm just going to lead by example. You should come bow down to me. Now, these people are going to be Yang, whether or not you like them, Marianne Williamson, whether or not you like her, and Tulsi Gabbard, whether or not you like her. They're going to be strong voices in politics for generations to come. And I imagine that Dario probably will as well, as an example. And so with Howie, I mean, he is, older. Dario being younger could bring people together in a unique way by reaching out to people like Dario. Don't you think that would probably be a better example of leadership, especially once again, when the ultimate goal, like you said, is to get that 5% in the general? Ultimate goal is to win, but you know what I mean.
Howie has not had a negative confrontation with Dario.
But that's not the same thing, though.
When they've been together at events, he talks to him, he shakes his hand. It's a friendly relationship. Now, if Dario joins with the unrecognized candidates and does attacks, well, that's a different story. So
that's my thing. If we want to win, right? Even the people who are disgruntled, we can't pretend like everything that they're disgruntled about is just complete and total nonsense. That's not how politics works. A lot of the times there's at least an element of truth and they just want to feel validated. So don't you think it might be easier for Howie to just reach out and say, hey man, listen, what's up? Who can I talk to make you, to not only say placate, but to essentially make you feel like your concerns are valid, like your message, like your platform will be heard, or I will try to somehow kind of mold my platform or mold your platform into mine. Like, don't you think that it would be worth it if you could stop? Because that would completely kill out the dissent, because the dissent's here. You've acknowledged that people have heard it. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I keep hearing about it. So wouldn't it maybe be worth it to just swallow the pride and say, you know what? Let's figure out what's wrong with these people. Let's get them on our team. Like you said, Dario's already friendly with Howie, so that's already seems to be in the bag if it comes down to that. But don't you think that'll be easier rather than kind of being combative with them?
Howie's not being combative with them. My comments on this show are probably the most combative that you've heard in the campaign from the Howie campaign. In the whole
or
team.
I should just say, excuse me, being dismissive. Dismissive. That would be the more appropriate, because Howie isn't being combative.
The lack of building a bridge is what I'm trying to acknowledge here. I don't think you'll ever get Sedamon or David to come on your side. They're the people they are. But Dennis Lambert, I can't believe that Howie can't get on the phone with Dennis Lambert and come to some, hey man, let's work together. I want you to have a voice in the Green Party. And that's what I see missing from Howie. Go ahead, Kevin.
I don't see that. I mean, I think more important for Howie, well, first off, with Bernie Sanders supporters, Howie was asked on another show about what would you do if Bernie Sanders wanted to join the Green Party and run. I'd say, let's talk. Howie's known Bernie Sanders since before he was mayor. He's known Sanders for a long time, so let's talk. He said the same thing with AOC on the Green New Deal. And he has said the same thing to all. The more important thing is getting people who support the other candidates to come and support the Howie campaign. There's nothing the other candidates stand for that's different from Howie. I mean, maybe one candidate who wants 100% cut in the military. Howie's at 75%.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah. I said Dave and Sedamon. I don't think you'll ever get them on your side.
No, it's a personality thing. Yeah. And same with.
But Dennis,
Ian,
Chad, even.
No, Chad.
Maybe, I don't know. Ian,
no, Chad's probably too far gone. But Ian,
probably.
Ian's a really reasonable person.
Ian also.
Maybe,
Ian
all I'm looking is for somebody. If they're going to sell me, if they're going to sell an independent, if they're going to sell something on the outside, you got to be able to sell your own party. And in this particular situation, when it comes to 2020, it just looks a little bit more divided in the inside of the Green Party, optic-wise, than it did in 2016. Now, if
that's just because there are a few people who are not recognized who are very loud. The reality is, you look at the voting going on more than 31. I think it's 31 states now. Howie's won 30 elections. He tied in one, Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, there was a big Jill Stein write-in because that's her home state. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit strange. But everywhere else, Howie has won. He has more than a 2-to-1 lead in delegates, and that's because he's work. That's
the number of votes is what I'm concerned about.
So he's got more than 2-to-1 lead, about a 3-to-1 lead. I mean,
within the Green Party, Howie is not right now the choice. I'm concerned with the growing numbers of votes, the lack of growing numbers of votes total with the Green Party in general.
Oh, we all concerned with that, and that's not about reaching out. That's the challenge of dealing with a system that's not going to let you in the debates. That's not going to let you on TV. That's the real problems with outreach. Now, right, Howie's doing a great job getting on new media, podcasts, Reddit. He's getting all sorts of new media. Lots of tens of thousands of people are starting to hear him on that, and so that's a big step. But he'll get on the other media too once he gets the full nomination. He's getting close to being the presumptive nominee. I think once that happens, I think he'll start to get the corporate media a little bit at least. The corporate media was never very kind to Jill Stein either. They weren't even
good luck with that.
they weren't even kind to Ralph Nader. I mean, so it's a big challenge. But yeah, we all want to see a bigger attempt for the Green Party, but we're not going to change our positions to get it. We're going to still take universal health care, single payer, and a national health service. We're still going to call for a peace economy. If you're an imperialist, don't come to the Green Party because we're not going to be an imperialist party. We're still going to call for worker rights. We're still going to call for a Green New Deal. We're going to take those positions. If people want to support those positions, the Green Party is the right place, and the Hawkins campaign is the best place for it.
No. Nico, you have anything else before we get to Venezuela?
No, all I gotta say is, I mean, to be honest with you, if the mainstream media treated Howie like shit, then that's probably a good thing, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah.
That's funny. I always feel that way about a lot of the work I do. Like we're working on this issue of a general strike right now. If you go to popularresistance.org, you'll see stuff about the general strike. the corporate media is not going to cover us, but they'll cover these right-wing zanies carrying guns to be opened up. But they'll ignore thousands of people calling for economic and racial and environmental justice.
Yeah,
they'll for them, and that's just the reality. When I did Occupy, it was the same thing.
Yeah, basically it's a bunch of fear porn with no real solutions being offered, and everybody out here on the ground trying to offer solutions is basically being ignored by the mainstream media. So,
and worse than fear porn, it's manipulated fear porn.
Yeah,
these being manipulated by money, by these corporations that want to profit off of people, even if it means people losing their lives. That's the sad thing.
Yeah, well, listen. You should listen to Nancy Pelosi. You know what she said today? She said, "Calm down, everybody. Everybody just needs to calm down. I'm gonna eat this $12 ice cream, okay? And y'all just need to calm the fuck down."
Yeah, right. Telling people to calm down. Well, Kevin, let me tell you, I'm glad we're gonna get to the Venezuela part, which is the juicy part, but I'm glad you came on the show to talk about this stuff because I have to 100% agree with Nico because that kind of argument is out there and that noise is out there, and I've been wanting to have you on to clear up the information, what's going on. I know your history. I know what you've done. We're big Kevin Zeese fans. I'm just not there on Howie 100%, but I hear you. I'd like to see a little bit more menschiness between those people in the parties to coalesce. Show me you can sell it and bring it together, and then we'll move forward amicably, and you'll get my vote. But I'm glad you came on here to talk about this.
I'm glad you described it as noise because that's what it is. There's no basis to it. Howie has not gotten special treatment. He has worked for every vote. He's campaigned hard across the country. He's gone to big meetings and small meetings of Greens. He's participated in every legitimate debate that's been held. He is running, and that's why he's winning, because he's working hard for it. And I'm glad Mario stopped the negative stuff because that was a big mistake on his part. I'm glad he's now being positive. And so I think it's a legitimate three-way race between the three recognized candidates, and Howie's winning pretty standily. Who's
the third one? Sedimam?
No, it's
not Dennis.
No.
So bad that I cannot remember his name, and I always forget.
Pro-Syria. He's in favor of Assad in Syria.
In favor of Assad. What do you mean?
I'm blank. He always wears an Assad picture on his shirt.
Well, I do not remember the guy. I feel so bad for him. But anyway, the other guy.
He's from Massachusetts.
Well, before we get to Venezuela, is there anything you want to clear up when it came to the Russiagating comment on Primo Nutmeg? A lot of people have been saying it on the thread. So if there's anything you want to address before we get into the meat and potatoes of Venezuela and what happened there, I'll give you a chance to do that, and then we'll move on to Venezuela. Unless, Nico, you got any other questions?
No, I'm good. I'm ready to talk about Venezuela, too.
Clear it up, Kevin, on the Nutmeg Primo bullshit with Russiagate. Go ahead.
I'm glad you called it bullshit. It was, if you go to HowieHawkins.us, he has very clear statements on Russiagate. He's very clear that it was right away the Democrats started claiming Russia was the source of Hillary's defeat. He points that was used by Democrats to give an excuse to why they lost to Trump. He points out how the Republicans use it to keep the neocon, right-wing, anti-Russia relationship going. He doesn't buy that either. Of course, there were Russians who were tweeting, during the campaign, but they had no impact. And how he says that, they had no impact. So Primo Nutmeg was a Tulsi and Ventura supporting outlet, and they were designed their media in order to support that and hurt Howie.
Hold on. I gotta push back a bit on that.
I think I just opened up a can of worms.
No, I just want to push back a bit. I want to push back a bit because at that point, Primo hadn't decided that he was supporting Tulsi yet, because that was still very early on. So I do want to push back. I mean, eventually he did make that decision.
I mean, Howie slipped, right? I mean,
something.
Say that one more time, Kevin.
It wasn't the best statement. Now to evolve, I mean. He said what he said, Kevin. I can't.
Can you hear me?
You know what I'm saying?
No.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Where did Kevin go?
We seem to have lost each other.
You're there. Can you hear us?
We can hear you, Kev.
Whoop, whoop. I can't hear anything.
Type in the chat, baby. Kevin will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, I'm going to go to Howie. Oh, Kevin, you back?
I'm back.
There he is.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. So say what you said, Pasta.
I was just saying that, Kev, I mean, I don't want to.
Again.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is that I don't want to put this on Primo Nutmeg whatsoever. I think how he said what he said, he might have slipped and not said the right thing. In fact, at the point when he said that, I was questioning why he said it. I said, is he capitulating to a certain crowd to try to get a vote? But if you want to back it up, talk about that and explain it, I'd like to hear it. Go ahead.
Oh, he froze again.
Froze again. Fucking.
Oh, well, we will, while he is coming back, he might need to click out and come back in. But so I'm going to go to Howie's website. Okay, Kev.
I'm trying back again. All I heard you said was Kev, and that was it.
Kev. What happened was Howie said what he said. I don't want to put it on Primo Nutmeg or think that he was trying to project something. Howie said what he said. He's got to own that. Now, if he misspoke, like I said, when I heard him say it, I was like, what is Howie doing here? Is he capitulating to somebody for a vote, a certain group that I don't know? But maybe you could unpack and explain what Howie said.
Go to HowieHawkins.us and see what he stands for.
So I'm here right now. Where do you know what sublink, like what subcategory it's under?
I can get it for you. I'll put it in
the chat. I want to be fair to Howie.
Great. You know, I sent this to Pasta before this event.
No, I have it. I know that. I know what his position is.
Yeah.
I want to know what he said and how he said it. You know what I'm saying? And kind of back that up.
I don't even remember what he said, to tell you the truth.
So what he said was that he advised Jill Stein from going to a climate conference that was in part hosted by RT, because he said RT is nothing but Russian propaganda, despite literally all like the most well-known, probably most celebrated.
And he's been on Crosstalk a couple times.
He's been on Crosstalk. He's been on Lee Camp. He's been on.
Yes,
exactly.
That's why it was confusing.
That's why, and Primo even gave him a chance to clarify his comments, and then he doubled down on them, and that's why we're kind of all like left with a hold up, what? And then he even said that Tulsi should not have gone to meet with the opposition and Assad, even though we know that she went to try and figure out what was going on in the Syrian war, and then of course she subsequently came back and introduced legislation to end it. So like how does that vibe? Like I don't understand how that. What does Jimmy always say? Yeah. How do you square that circle?
And this has been your biggest obstacle, Kevin. This is the thing that has laid the groundwork for people to go, that interview.
Howie was just asked at the last New York debate about Syria, and he gave a very clear answer about U.S. should get out of Syria. U.S. should stop trying to change the government in Syria. It's up to the people of Syria to decide who their government is. Now, he says we should. He's an anti-imperialist, and the U.S. needs to get out of the Middle East. So he's been very clear on all that. I put the chat link. I put a link up to the Hawkins statement on Russiagate, so people want to read that. Share it in your chat dialogue or whatever, so people can read that.
Send it to me.
He's been very clear on that.
We're gonna pull that back up. Go ahead with what you were saying, Pasta. You were saying something else.
No, I mean that was it. Listen, it was confusing to me when I watched the interview and I heard Howie say those things. It was just kind of I was like, this is a Green Party member over here. Since then, I think we've kind of clarified. I think Howie's taken the position. It's a non-imperialistic type of position, and that's cool. But this has been the avenue for a lot of distress when it comes to the support for Howie Hawkins from those ex-Tulsi-crats or those non-interventionist Bernie people. It's that statement he made on that channel. And I think there's been a lot of, it's me, Primo Nutmeg, kind of projecting or twisting things. No, Howie said it. He has to own it. And this is the part of leadership where I say he's got to come forth and say, I misspoke. I don't feel this way. This is the way I feel. This is my policy.
Matter of fact, he doesn't even have to say that. I guess what a lot of people are wanting to hear, like in a very clear way, because we've heard this from people like Tulsi and Bernie and others in the past. If it's okay for him to just say, you know what? I've evolved on this issue. I have somebody like Kevin Zeese by my side. We all know how educated you are on foreign policy. We all know that you probably could set him straight and set us straight in some ways that we couldn't even imagine because of how much experience you've had on the ground in these situations. And he's more than free to say, and even welcomed to say, I've evolved on this issue because I put some great people around me. I think that's what a lot of people are looking to hear, rather than a deflection or a blame upon, Primo Nutmeg's line of questioning. Because I watched the interview multiple times. He was very fair. He was very, very fair. He even gave him chances to correct himself and make sure that he was saying, or that he knew he was saying what he was saying.
Well, I think that Howie has put his position out very clearly since that interview. And if you see it as, evolving, that's fine. If you see it getting clarified, that's fine. But he's very clear on all these issues. And I think that you'd have a hard time finding any to disagree with, whether it's Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, Russiagate. He just put out a statement. If you go to HowieHawkins.us under campaign updates on Venezuela, where he's very strong on ending U.S. imperialism in Venezuela.
And I want to go ahead and read Howie's current stance, to be fair to him. So this is the link that Kevin was kind enough to send us. It says the obsession with the Russiagate scandals has become a massive distraction from the life or death problems we face, from the climate change crisis and the new nuclear arms race to the declining living standard and life expectancies of the working class and the assaults on the political and social rights of all Americans, which is generally how most populists feel. So.
And it's a long statement. It goes beyond. It goes longer. But people check it. And on anti-imperialism, this Venezuela statement just came out. I think it was today or yesterday. Very strong on anti-imperialism and criticizing the U.S. coup attempts in Venezuela that have been going on by both parties since 1999 when Chavez was elected. Bush tried a coup in 2002. Obama escalated the sanctions, calling Venezuela a national security threat, and Trump has escalated beyond Obama. So both parties are on the wrong side of Venezuela, and Howie's on the right side of that one as well.
I think we learned a very valuable lesson here, ladies and gentlemen. Howie, next time, hire Kevin earlier. Jesus. It's like I know he didn't have Kevin in his corner when he made that fucking statement. It was
actually, listen, I actually was one of the people who encouraged Howie to run. Margaret Flowers and I had Howie on our radio show to talk about the Green New Deal. And when we were done, we said, Howie, would you consider running for president? We need a nominee. And Howie initially said, I just retired. I got a lot of writing I want to do. I don't really want to do that. I said, what would it take to do it? And he thought about it for a while. And he was really sensible about it. He didn't like jump at the ego thing. He said, well, I run for president. It's got to be a serious run. That means I got to have, first off, a team that supports work for me. And second, I got to see support in the Green Party for me to do it. And when that got put in place, and he has a great team, I think a fantastic team, I volunteered to be part of it right away. And I stayed part of it all the way through. I got a little sidetracked with my federal prosecution. That kind of got me off track. I had to focus on defending myself from the federal government over the Venezuela stuff.
But welcome to the team, man. Welcome to the team.
Exactly. How he thought about it and decided to go in. And ever since he went in, he has been very serious. He has worked really hard, gone state to state, traveled wherever he could to get his message out. And that's why he's doing so well in the primary.
Yeah. Well,
good stuff.
Like I said, I'd like to see get on the horn with Ian Schlockman, get on the horn with Dennis, squash these things, work together is what I'd like to see, and come forward and let's get this 5% because that's what we need to do. Let's get on to Venezuela.
All right. So, Kevin, what is going on, man? Private mercenary groups like some out of a Call of Duty game.
What's happening? Watching the draft. And then somebody said something's going down. I was like, who are the New York Jets are picking? We got mercenaries in Venezuela. Somebody get Kevin Zeese on the phone. Go ahead, buddy.
It's a Bay of Pigs revisited. It's just as that was an embarrassment, U.S. trying to invade Cuba to remove Fidel Castro. This is now U.S. funded mercenaries. They're funded by money seized from the Venezuelan government through Juan Guaido. They had signed a $200 million contract with Guaido to conduct this insurgency into Venezuela, and it was embarrassing. I think what's often so common in these things, the U.S. government so underestimates the Venezuelan people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the Venezuelan people actually do not want to be under the control of the United States. They like being independent. They like being sovereign. They remember what it was like pre-1999. When the wealth divide where literally 75% of Venezuelans were living in poverty.
That's pre-Chavez, right?
Pre-Chavez. When I was in Venezuela the second time I visited, which was early last year, went to a community, large barrio, 1.5 million people lived there. Pre-Chavez, that community was not even on the map because they got zero services. Now it has subway, it has buses, it has schools, healthcare centers, dental outlets, has urban farming, it has a bustling community. But before Chavez, they were not given anything. And so people remember that. And that's why what the government doesn't understand, the U.S. government doesn't understand, is that when they see people trying to come in to invade Venezuela, these fishermen who saw them are going to alert the authorities.
Yeah.
They don't understand that.
I remember whenever Guaido announced the coup on YouTube live stream with his camera on portrait mode, that was an embarrassment. And when they tried to invade the palace, the people were surrounding the palace. Not even the military, but the people were.
Exactly.
So they're riding out for Maduro. Now, I will ask.
I'd like to unpack that.
Go ahead,
unpack
bro.
the whole? Yeah. Could you unpack what happened so people can understand? So you're saying they surrounded the palace. Give us step by step, because a lot of people said it was very similar to what happened in Mumbai in India, where they just came in through the water, a small group armed, and they tried to go. I mean, in the case of Mumbai, I think they were just trying to kill people. But in this particular case, they were trying to actually capture and kill Maduro of sorts. Can you give us the whole?
Oh, go ahead, Kevin. You can do it better.
The surrounding the palace is a separate story.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a different coup attempt.
Gotcha.
This coup attempt, they were supposed to come on shore, meeting up with other Venezuelans, people in Venezuela they had recruited and armed to conduct terrorist events in Venezuela, secure the airport, capture Maduro and his wife, and fly them to the United States. That was the plan.
Wow.
And they got stopped right before they got on shore. I mean, they were, and it's interesting, since it's happened, the Venezuelan government has said that they were aware of this planning before it started. They were so involved in the inside that they were actually paying for some of their function space.
Wow.
They knew what was going on.
How many people were stopped before they got on shore, and who were they?
There were two boats. I believe 8 people were killed. I'm not sure the exact numbers who were killed and captured, but it was not a large number. And it was a combination of Venezuelans who had fled to Colombia.
Yeah, I heard.
A DEA agent, a Venezuelan DEA agent, a USD agent who was Venezuelan, 2 U.S. Special Forces guys, and they were captured and brought on shore, interrogated, and they said on one of the Special Forces guy was on camera telling the whole plan. And
whoa, he snitched? Oh man, now we look at us guys in the international community. We look like snitches now too. We can't do coups correctly anymore. See, I ain't gonna lie to you, Kevin. As much of a problem as I have with Donald Trump, this is one of the things that I like about him. The man is so damn incompetent sometimes, and his leadership is so damn incompetent, and they're so braggadocious about how they go about their business that people like Maduro get to sit back and laugh as they foil every single attempt to overthrow them. Do you feel like there is some type of inherent value in having an abundance of incompetence in power versus what I like to call efficient imperialism that would have basically come about if Hillary Clinton would have won?
Well, that's exactly what my friends at Black Agenda Report talked about. When you talk about the lesser evil, it's deceptive because while Trump may have been the greater evil, in reality, Clinton would have been a more effective evil.
Exactly.
She would have been able to actually get things done in ways that would have been more damaging.
Look at the Ukraine.
The lesser evil, exactly. The lesser evil thing is really confusing when you really start to get into it. And now we have 2, really evil candidates in Biden and Trump. Biden, terrible record on so many issues.
Sided with Trump on Venezuela. He just sided with Trump on Venezuela. It came out the other day.
Exactly. And they're both accused of sexual assault in very ways. We have 2 guys running for office credibly accused of sexual assault
by multiple women.
Multiple women. It's so embarrassing.
It is.
And neither party will investigate their candidate.
And you can't really tell which one of them is Democrat and Republican. One of them used to be a Democrat. The other one brags about working with segregationist Republicans. Like
I know. It's so embarrassing.
It is, man. I know most of the world is looking at us and laugh, like literally, like, bro. How?
But as far as incompetence go, I'm not a big fan of incompetence. The incompetence we've seen with Donald Trump in response to the COVID crisis is costing literally tens of thousands. There's a website now called TrumpDeathClock.com or .org, I'm not sure. Trump Death Clock, and it made by people who have been talking with public health experts, how many of those deaths from COVID are because Donald Trump was incompetent? Not all the deaths are Trump's fault, but they estimate that it's a running count. It continues to grow. 45,000 of the 70,000 deaths are because of Trump's incompetence.
See, I got to push back on that because I feel like that's giving Trump way too much credit. I feel like it's giving him way too much credit. Cause I have been following the legislature in conjunction, how they're working in conjunction with the executive branch. And from my vantage point, it's the legislature that's been failing everybody. It isn't Donald, because Donald Trump, for example, called for free testing and free treatment for COVID, while Nancy Pelosi asked to open up the marketplace, and so did Joe Biden. And then
she wants to strengthen COBRA.
Yeah, strengthening.
But you can't compare that to Trump saying it's going to disappear in April.
But Trump was also the one who brought attention to it in January, and Nancy Pelosi literally went to China, said on camera, "Oh, it's not going to be a problem. We're not worried about it." So I don't feel like we should be trying to assign everything to Trump. I feel like we give him too much credit, and we are basically abdicating the legislature's horrid response to these.
I think Trump deserves his credit, but the Congress also deserves their credit.
Yeah. Everybody in our government was asleep at the wheel, except and once again, and this is the thing, we would laugh about this, me and Nico, when we would be at a Tulsi Gabbard event back in November, and she was talking about this shit. I was like yawning, going, man, I don't want to hear about a coronavirus. You know what I'm saying? I was like, come on. And she's like, this is ridiculous. We need masks. We need ventilators. But there was nobody within our whole government at all. Everybody was asleep at the wheel. You know what I'm saying? When it came to this coronavirus.
What's sad about that is that we've gone through similar viruses before. There was actually a virus playbook developed by the Obama administration after they screwed up the last virus. They learned from their mistakes in the playbook. And
hold on, did Fauci write that playbook? Because if he was okay, because I'm not trying to
look at that playbook. the playbook that our government looks at is the regime change playbook, which I talked about over a year ago. That book is very clear and evident to them, Kevin, not this particular playbook.
And Trump was, China told CDC about this virus January 3rd. They told HHS January 3rd. National Security is discussing it in January. So a lot of people in the government knew it was happening. It wasn't until mid-March that Trump finally did something.
But they were all lying to us simultaneously. So I do have to push back.
And they're still lying to us.
Yeah, and I do have to push back a bit on that because I got corrected. And so he actually did put together a task force. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but he did put together a task force to start investigating different solutions in January, like late January. So I do have to push. I got corrected on it. I thought the same thing.
I don't think that's accurate. I'd like to check that out.
I verified it. I went back because I didn't believe it either. I'm like, there was nobody who got this right. So
they didn't do it. They didn't take any action until mid-March of any serious matter.
Yes, I would agree with that. And like I said, it's been a blunder. And I will also say this, speaking of Venezuela, and I think we talked about Cuba as well, and even China to a degree. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Cuba and China basically created a treatment that makes it, Cuba has like a 0% death rate of COVID right now because they created a super drug. And now because of our imperialistic behavior towards these countries, we have, like you just said, 70,000 people dead with no access to this super drug. While we're saying, we're just trying to find a cure. We're trying to find one. We don't know where it's at. What can you talk?
It's not only a super drug. It's also Cuba has and they've also done this in Venezuela and Nicaragua. They've created a very strong community-based public health system.
Yes.
Venezuela and Nicaragua have great records on COVID right now. They are doing really well. And I think it's mainly because they follow the Cuban model and put a doctor in every community with health professionals supporting that doctor. And that means that those communities actually can talk to people in those communities, let them know about the virus. They can find those who have the virus, who they've been exposed to, track it down, follow it. And they
pay their doctors more than the Cubans do, right? Venezuela, because they have more money. They have more access to the oil and all that good stuff. So,
well, they're struggling in Venezuela because of the economic war, but they can.
I just think it's amazing that while everybody was talking about American exceptionalism, it was Cuba, Russia, and China going around the globe and helping other countries out. I still have that footage of Italy where the guy goes and he takes the Euro flag, which the Euro did nothing, the EU. He rolls up the EU flag, he goes and he puts it inside. He still has his Italian flag out there, and he comes and he puts a Russian flag next to it. and says
that's what Russia was sending health professionals in.
You know, it was
Exactly.
crazy, Pasta. I think I was sitting on your couch when we were looking at this on RT, and I was like, is it even that serious? And this is what, November, December time? And I was like, is this even that serious? What? And lo and behold, Russia was ahead of the pack here. China, obviously, because of, it kind of originated there, but it's just so crazy.
Russia has its problems now, though.
Of course. Well, every single superpower. If you saw on the U.S. I'll call it the U.S. Security Council. You know why? You all have your issues. You don't get on that Security Council without some finagling and some imperialism behind the scenes. But that being said, even with their problems, somehow they can still manage to get the things that are common sense correct. Whereas the United States, once again, we're pretending like we're searching for solutions that aren't there when we can't even just suck up our pride for a second and say, look, let's come to a deal, right? This is Trump, right? The art of the deal. Go to Cuba, say, look, we'll lift up these sanctions for this amount of time for trading medicinal advice, supplies, etc., to treat COVID, because we don't want this to become a global catastrophe. Just because if it gets in control everywhere else, but it's still a problem here, it'll become a problem everywhere else again. But we still don't even have the wherewithal to do that. It's very frustrating.
So just to tie this back to Howie's put two statements out on COVID. One, he put out a statement before any other candidate, even Bernie, put out a statement on COVID. Then he put one out recently, what needs to happen in the next COVID bailout. Because we're still not doing enough in Congress. Is still
100%.
Democrats have all this power right now. They control the House, and for anything that passed the Senate, you need Democratic votes. So they are in control.
And they got us nothing.
That's exactly right.
Bupkis. The
exactly.
PPP been a big disaster. Small businesses haven't got their money. They didn't put any restrictions on other than the fact that you needed 500 employees per location. So the PPP, the small businesses, which is now just a buzzword when it comes to Republicans and Democrats, they got bupkis, while Harvard, Columbia, Shake Shack.
What happened to the minimum?
Mopped up millions from the PPP. So you are 100% correct, Kevin. We have the House, the Democrats have it, but yet nothing's being done. To wrap it up,
and they control the Senate.
Yes. Yep. To wrap it up, Kevin, Maduro's not out of the woods right now. Okay.
Not at all.
How would you, if Howie became president today, how would you advise him to make a statement and a treatment and actions towards Venezuela? What would he do? What would you advise him to do?
First thing is end the sanctions. I mean, the sanctions are brutal. 40,000 people, according to one research project, 40,000 people died in the last 2 years because of U.S. sanctions. So first thing, lift the sanctions. End the effort at regime change. Recognize that you have to talk to Maduro and find a way to work together. We're in the same hemisphere. For many years, Venezuela and U.S. worked together. Venezuelans love the U.S. people. When I was in Venezuela, I was amazed that, Maduro was drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh, for real? I didn't know that. Hold up. And seriously, he was?
Yeah, seriously, he was. He didn't go.
Yeah.
He was
I thought he was. Hold up, no. The United States told me that he was running drugs.
Player. Yeah.
Okay, he couldn't have been playing baseball and running drugs at the same time, Kevin. Come on.
He was driving a bus part-time playing baseball. Venezuela's got a good team. A lot of good baseball players come from Venezuela.
I do know that.
Chavez was a good player, too.
Oh, yeah. I think, though, Castro would beat both their asses, would have been drafted higher. Fidel had an arm.
Bro, we love our Cubans in the MLB, so he had an advantage, okay? Especially the negritos. We love the black Cubans in the MLB, so.
Dude, whenever I watch Cuba and Venezuela play in the baseball classics, they got some great players. But go ahead, Kevin, finish it up. What you were saying, I think that Elliot Abrams won't keep his job.
I think he should be prosecuted. As far as
lifting the sanctions,
talk to Maduro. Develop a relationship that's positive between the United States and Venezuela. We can have a mutually positive relationship. There's no need for the U.S. to try to steal Venezuela's resources. We can talk to Venezuela. We can trade with Venezuela. There's going to be a very vibrant activity between our countries. We should allow the Venezuelan experiment go forward. The Bolivarian process, putting in place socialism, it's a slow process. They're trying to do it democratically. Makes it even harder, but they're trying to take a democratic approach to it. They're not dictating socialism. They're trying to do it democratically. Let that process go forward. We can learn from it. And I think we can also learn from Venezuela about democracy. Not only does Venezuela have great elections,
fair elections,
not even elections. First of all, they have 95% registered voters, which is
God damn, I didn't know that.
they're trying to get to 100, but they also have direct democracy, which is at the community level. They have community assemblies, community councils.
Wow.
And the councils get together, decide what their community needs. They go to the government and say, we need street lights, we need.
That's what we used to have.
And that direct democracy is something we should build up. We're starting to do a little bit in the United States. Some cities have participatory budgeting, where you can, for a certain part of the budget, communities can decide what they need. We need to learn from Venezuela and how to actually do democracy. We don't have a democracy in our country. We have a mirage democracy with manipulated elections. It's an illusion. It's not
100% agree.
And so that's I think we could learn from Venezuela if we stop calling Maduro a dictator and start doing it.
So
I think that. So I was going to say when Howie goes make a trip over there, go to talk to Maduro.